Alrighty, hello everyone, and welcome back to another VCE. And today we have Gabriel. Gabriel, how does this feel? Like you're being interviewed, like me interviewing. This kind of like, how do you feel about this?
It's a lot of fun. A different vibe. I'm used to the one leading the interview, so pretty happy about it. I'm not gonna lie, I'm like, yeah, I don't have to be a host, so I don't have to like worry about where the conversation's going. I'm like, I can just sit back, relax. So excited for
Good.
that.
Well, that's real good. That's real good. And since you're a senior, right?
Mhm.
So, and then you leave in like a couple weeks, is that correct?
So yeah, I'll be leaving in a couple months for a mission trip I'll be doing with my church. I'll be going to Taiwan, so I'll be leaving in September for that. But again, I'll be very busy with language training and everything.
Oh no, for sure. So, the first question I have for you actually is your journey of VCE and how you got started. Do you mind giving us a little recap, a little journey of how you got started and how you ended up here today?
Yeah. So that would the original journey would go way back to when I was 13. This is my I feel like my leadership journey. I'd be amiss to not touch a little bit on that as we go. But my journey started when I was 13. That's something where I was first kind of invited into the field of like leadership, which leadership is very interrelated to public speaking and presenting on things. And at the time, I wasn't that great at public speaking or interviewing people. I would never been like in the interview chair talking about stuff, anything, right? And,
Right.
and so that's when I was first asked to be the president of a youth leadership group. And that's really when it first started, where I started thinking of more in terms of how I could help people and what potential I had as someone who can lead. Because helping isn't always volunteering. Sometimes it is, but other times it's leading, it's guiding, kind of directing. And so that's something that I hadn't thought of before. I was like, wait, I can influence people. I can like impact lives. Like, what is this? And
Right.
so that's really what got me into leadership. And since then, I've been the president of two leadership groups currently. I'm the chairman of the Aurora Youth Council, and which is the my city's youth advisory board. So we represent about 25,000 students to Aurora, city council representatives as well as the mayor. And then I'm also the co-president of a teen advisory board. But all that wouldn't have been possible without, a lot of help and support from light leaders, which my journey started with light leaders specifically. We go back a little bit, about a year or so. But before that, though, like the leading up to that, never heard about light. I just, it was like, oh, there's a lot of career development, not for profits here. So I had no idea. I was like, was this light? I don't know. But when it started though, is when I first heard about light was through a great nonprofit called the Alive Center, which I work for. And I was like, oh, these are great resources. So like we got to connect. So I connected with Adriana, who's one of the amazing program leaders. And the reason that I've gotten into VCEs, that's something that Adriana was like, hey, do you want to join? I was like, this is so cool. Tell me more, because at the time I've been looking into like internships, or kind of at that point where I wanted new opportunity, but I didn't know what exactly. Like I was still kind of exploring the options that were available. And because, yeah, at that point, you get to a point after, a couple years at something where you feel like you need a change or you want to try a new opportunity. And I was
Right.
kind of at that point. I was like, I want a new opportunity. I want to learn something new and continue working on my goals of public speaking, of presenting, of being able to interview someone. So I told Adriana about this just in conversation, and she's like, "Well, actually, we have virtual career interviewing that you can do, and you don't have to go anywhere for it. You can just be on Zoom." I was like, "What? Say what? Like this is awesome!" So I went and started doing that. This is, I don't know, June of last year, and I saw a lot that I want to change and improve about this, because originally all these things were held via Zoom, but they weren't recorded. So you would go in, do an interview, but the interview would only be seen or viewed by the people who actually been in the Zoom, which how many people actually watch interviews live? I, for one, don't. I was like, I don't do that. So I was like, well, let's check in. Let's look it up. Let's see what's good. And so I was like, let's start a YouTube channel. And also just something.
Good idea.
Yeah. So that was something that I talked with one of the other hosts, Davian, about, and I was like, let's get a YouTube channel going. So there's something we both kind of came up with, and we're like, this is how we can better reach people. So that's something that I saw from the get-go that I wanted to see happen. I was like, this is not something we need to change. We need to improve. So that's something that I thought would be fun to learn. Like, you learn how to edit videos. You learn how to make quick 1 minute videos to put on TikTok, post on YouTube and all that kind of stuff. And so that's when we really started. We really started doing that in August. And that's when it really started popping a little bit where, now we almost have over 1,000 views on our channel, which is just crazy to think about from where we started to where we're at now. But that's something where a light leader is like, when I first started, I didn't really know how to interview well. I didn't know how to edit videos. It was one of those things where I had no idea how to do that, or to lead an interview and to take up an hour, because that's something that people would be like, oh, you do an hour-long interview. That's, pretty normal. It's pretty normal to do hour-long interviews. I was like, okay, that works. Checks out. It was beyond me how you could have an hour-long conversation with somebody and have no dead space. Because in broadcasting and interviewing, to have 2 or 3 seconds is horrible. You can't have 2 or 3 seconds of dead space. It can't be quiet. You got to have something going on. It's pretty quick. So you got to think on your feet. I was like, okay, so but that's something I learned so much about. I was like, wow, this is amazing. So that's really my journey with light. So I started about a year ago. Now we're today, and I will be leaving as a host for the VCEs, and Mariah will be taking over for me. So very excited to see what you add to it, and you're already doing a great job. So we're excited, and again, this is going to be a fun transition. It's weird for me to be the one being interviewed, but it's fun seeing Mariah take over.
Yes. That was. I did not know you made the YouTube channel. That's crazy. Yeah. I thought we always just had it. But I do remember you saying that you had trouble. You weren't always good with like speaking in front of people, keeping a conversation. So what tips and what helped you get your confidence so you can be able to host VCs like this and be able to hold a conversation?
Oh, well, that's a really good conversation. A good question there. That was something that I like. Initially, I've always known I like talking to people, but talking with somebody, holding a conversation there is different from having an interview. Because for me, I can talk, for example, leadership, or I can talk history with people because I love history and I love leadership. And I can talk that very well, and we can go get into very complex things and things that aren't very well known amongst people who aren't interested in those things. But this public speaking and doing interviews really helped me develop those skills, as far as knowing how to make something easy to understand for everyone who's watching, right? So even the person who knows nothing about what I'm talking about would take something out of it, but then also the person who knows a lot more than I do about what I'm talking about, they'd still be able to kind of get that. But a lot of that experience and going in and doing it, and becoming better at this thing, because I sincerely believe that you're always learning. The wise people know what they don't know, but accept what they do know. So that's the thing where I know that I've learned a lot from where I started, but I know I still have so much more to learn. And that's the thing, where you got to know where you're at, but you also recognize where you're going, and where you've come. So that's something where, the experience was so good. My advice to people is to just keep doing something. There's this old poem. It's like, try again. If something's hard, if it's difficult, if you don't think you're going to succeed, try and try again. And that's the thing that I learned. Like my first interview was horrible. I'll be the first one to say it. The person being interviewed was doing a better job than I was doing. I wasn't good. I was horrible. My transitions, I would say like the ums or like the buts or like the ands, like, like all that stuff. That's something that people normally use to connect sentences rather than just saying, the sentence and then just ending. So that's something that I learned as I went through. So my advice, just keep doing it. Keep doing it again and again and again, and watch your videos. I know a lot of people, especially in broadcasting, we don't like watching recordings of ourselves talking. I think that, I don't know if that's true for like everyone, but I know at least for me and all my friends, like who are in broadcasting, we don't like it. We're like, we think our voices sound ugly, which is the truth. That's actually how we think. A lot of the time we're like, whoa, I don't, does that, I sound like that? Like, so that's something where it can be weird to hear that. So that's where you just got to keep doing it and give yourself notes. Go talk to professionals, people who are doing it, and doing quite well with interviewing and broadcasting. Go learn from them, see what they do. And then, so that's part of it, right? Light leaders, just getting as many like public speaking engagements as possible, as many interviewing opportunities as possible. And that's my advice. Just keep doing it, keep pushing. What you see is the product of countless hours of work, right? It's not an overnight process. You got to keep pushing and keep going. So that's my advice. But then also, you gotta continuously be educating yourself. So you can't just say, okay, I read all the books, I know everything. Because if you know everything, then in 2 years, in 1 year, you're going to know nothing, because the industry is constantly changing. So YouTube's a really great thing right now, but what goes to say that in 20 years, we're going to have different sites, right? And I think we're seeing that, like, as Instagram during the early 2000s, Instagram was amazing, right? You could go on Instagram, you would immediately get thousands of views, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. Now it's not growing as much as it used to be. And now we have TikTok. TikTok is growing exponentially. You could put a video on TikTok and it will get double, triple, even 4 or 5 times the number of views it would get if you posted it to like YouTube. So short form content is doing really well. So like the 20-minute videos, they're not doing as well as some other videos that are like 15, 30 seconds.
Right.
So, just kind of educating yourself, learning what's new. And also just always listening to people, always learning. So yeah, that's definitely some advice that I would give to people who are looking at getting into this. But also just practicing and becoming better, because all you can do is to try, and trying, you get better.
No, yeah, I think I remember you telling me when I was doing my Howard videos about using like the like and ums. And today in English class, I had to present about like the American dream or whatever, and I didn't say like or as much as like I did before, because I took your advice. Your advice was really good. I thought I did really good on my presentation today, but
I'm sure you did. I know it's you've been doing a great job.
Yeah, I was less nervous. Like, I just went up there. I was like, let me do this, say what I have to say, and get it over with. So I felt very proud of myself. I remember you. So thank you, Gabriel.
Thank you.
So what were some turning points or some challenges that you had to go through? Like, I know it's a lot balancing like work and school and VCE. Like, how do you accomplish those challenges that you had to go through?
So first off, I live by my calendar, so I swear by that. Like that's the thing. But also though, taking it back to like some of the obstacles, I absolutely I had to make a lot of changes to who I was and to what I was doing, because when I first started my leadership journey, I was quite young, obviously, and then also there's a lot of people who may look at, say, my age. They see the age and they're like, oh, you're too young to do anything meaningful. But that's the thing where I try to help break down that stigma, that at 15, we're just as capable as anyone else. And so that's something where that was an obstacle, is the how people viewed me. So I had to work on being able to present myself in a way where people didn't see my age, so much as they see my character, as they see what I stand for. So I had to work on personal branding, which is something, again, we don't have to get into too much, but personal branding I think is very important. So as a teen, it doesn't matter where you post something, it's always going to be found. So I found that I have to stay consistent. So on all my platforms, on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, anywhere, I make sure that I'm sharing the same consistent message, and which I think is very important. So that's something that really helped, is really helped kind of take down the stigma of like, oh, he's too young. Well, I've been able to accomplish a lot and I'm still only 18. But that's the point where going over that and saying, hey, even though I'm young, I can still make a difference in my community. I can still do a good job. And I have character. You know what I stand for. Right once you meet me, you know exactly what I stand for. So that's something where I have to be very intentional. So I can't have 20 meetings with people about the most random stuff. I have to be very intentional. So every single Sunday, I make goals for what I want to get done that week. But it's not just for like weekly goals. It's also monthly, quarterly, and yearly goals. So that's something where you have to be very intentional. So for what I've done and what I've been able to accomplish, and the success that I've been able to attain, is been through developing my goals. Because a big obstacle for me, one of the biggest obstacles you can have is yourself. So, and I mean that in the way that when I first started, my mindset had to change. When I first started in leadership, when I first started in podcasting, my mindset had to change. And from that of like, oh, I'm here to like kind of have fun. And like, I had to go change that to like, I'm here to lead. I'm here to learn and engage in a very responsible way. Right. So that's something that you do have to change your mindset, because there can be a mindset of like, oh, I just want to go through life and play, mess around, be goofy, which is important. Have fun. But at the same time, you have to recognize that there's a time and place for everything. So I had to put different departments, or I call them departments. So there's like my responsibilities. I could tell you all my responsibilities on a list. So I have these different organizations and even family responsibilities, right? So I put that down. I write that all down, and I got responsibilities to myself. I need to make sure that I'm happy. So as an extrovert, I need to hang out with people. I need to go talk to people, and I need to have fun with that. So that's something where my responsibility to myself, have fun, go roller skate and go do whatever, and so that's something that I've done. I go and I have fun. I do, outside of work, outside of school, outside of all that stuff. I love parties. I've been to a lot of parties, and it's so much fun. But that's the part where you gotta work hard so you can play hard, and that's what I do. I work really hard so that I'm able to have fun on the weekends, or whatever my schedule allows. And that's something where my work is my passion, so I love it, and it is fun for me. But it is also important to recognize that work and play are two different things. When I'm responding to an email, yes, that's exciting that, I may be getting a deal going or a community partnership. That's exciting. That's awesome. There's nothing more fulfilling than a successful partnership. But it's important to differentiate, because a lot of people think that, oh, you can just keep doing it and keep doing it. But there is a difference. I learned there was like, everyone's like, oh, if you love your work, you're not working. Well, you are, because when I'm sending an email, that's 5 minutes less time that I get to spend with my family or my friends, or my little sister, who I won't be able to see in 3 months. I'll be 7,000 miles away. So that's something where you got to differentiate that. So there's a couple obstacles there, just with some stigmas there. And then just as far as like managing my time and being able to present that, a lot of it is putting down calendar reminders for anything I need to do. So I have weekly planning sessions just with myself, and I go over my calendar. I go over my goals for the week, for the month as well, and make sure that I'm on track to meet all those goals. and then just making sure that I'm having fun, I'm doing well, with, like, I'm mentally healthy. I'm not getting burnt out, so not working until 3 in the morning, like, as a lot of us tend to do, and especially me. I mean, my goodness, I can bring work home with me. Especially when it's something I'm super passionate about. I'm like a go getter, like, let's get this done. But I've had to realize that, I gotta take it's gonna be a lot better for me if I take some me time, right? At 12 in the morning, I should not be sending somebody an email because they're not even going to see it until 8 in the morning. So me sending the email, it doesn't matter if it's 12 or 8. It's better for me if I send it at 8 than if I send it at 12, because no one's going to read the email. So that's something, I had to learn. And it's hard. It's really hard. But you got to have clear boundaries on that.
No, that's real good. Your mindset is crazy good. Like, balancing, like, you having me time is so important too, because like you say, you can always get burnt out, or you're tired, you feel just overwhelmed, and then also knowing that you have to get business done. Like, work comes where, like, you gotta get business. That's good. Okay, really good mindset. I like that. So how do you do with your I know we talked about before, but like your mental health, like you said, there's a lot going on. How do you deal with those times where you're down in the dumps? Like, how do you pick yourself up and bring that joy?
Yeah. So, before we get into that a little bit, I want to cover just my journey with mental health, because I think that's something really important. That before I got as I become busier and have more engagements, speaking engagements and presentations, and more engagements with the media and that kind of thing, there's a lot of stress involved. I think everyone who speaks on shows, or it presents to very important people, can make big decisions. They all have to. There's all a little stress involved, right? You got to prepare your presentation well. So before even like any of that stuff, I went and I met with mental health professionals, and I was like, teach me how to take good care of my health. Like, I was before I do anything, you got to take care of yourself. Like, that's the thing. There's a saying for one of the podcasts that I help produce for and intern with. Take care of yourself before you take and others. But that's very important. You can't take care of other people unless you take care of yourself. Because if you are feeling depressed, if you're feeling lonely, if you're feeling left out a little bit, or you're not getting that me time or your friends, then you're probably spending too much time at work. And I think that's something a really important thing to realize. You need to take margin, and you need to know, and I'll talk a little bit more about margin, but you need to know how to take care of yourself, because your ability to produce anything of any meaningful value is tied to your overall physical, mental, spiritual health. You need to be healthy in order to be able to produce quality stuff, to be in a spotlight, right? You need to be healthy. You need to be happy or satisfied with where you're going. And that's something that a lot of people start out really well. They start out great. They're really happy. They're go-getter. They're accomplishing so much. And then you see they get burnt out and they lose everything they had, whether it's business, whether it's, it's a family, nonprofit, whatever it is. They lose all that because they let their health, whether it's their mental health or physical health, let that go to the wayside. So it's something really important to recognize. Your health is paramount, and you got to take care of it. And so as far as me, when I first started, experiencing a lot more stress with, giving presentations to people, or going on an interview, because it can be stressful, right? Preparing those slides, you have the deadline, but I also have full-time school. I work 2 jobs plus an internship. I have early morning classes. So every morning I'm waking up at 5:40. So I don't, and some days I'm not done. Like, I'm from 6 to 12 in the morning. I'm in meetings. So I don't like with no time in between. So that's something where there's a lot of stress and a lot of things that are going on. So when I first started that, I met with counselors, therapists, mental health professionals, and I was like, tell me your secrets. How do I, accomplish what I want to accomplish? Because I'm never gonna not want to do this. I want to continue doing this. How do I do that and stay healthy? So I learned a lot of really good skills, and some of which were just as far as like being mindful. So I learned about mindfulness, which is something I really hadn't known or heard of before. Like, I mean, people be like, "Oh, mindfulness," like it's that thing you do when you're feeling down and out. But they help change my perspective from it's not that thing you do when you're feeling down and out, but it's that thing you do before you're feeling down and out. And that's not something that I really thought. It changed my perspective that I need to be mindful, and that can be going to the gym. It can be listening to a podcast. It can be even just thinking on the shower. I mean, I don't know about you, but I get all my good ideas from the shower.
I'm saying shower thoughts are top tier. That's
mm-hmm.
You'd be going through your day in the shower, like everything that comes to your head, like shower thoughts are yes.
There's something, but they're important because it helps you think about and realize a lot of what's going on in your life, right? Come to terms with a lot of things, like maybe someone bothered you, or maybe some really good thing happened. You can think about that, and that's okay. That's okay to think about those things, and it's your mind's way of processing things. So you need to give yourself time to process stuff. So that's something that a really good skill I learned, and then also just meditating, and that's something that can take 5 minutes here. Literally before meetings, I will take like 2 minutes, 30 seconds, whatever it is, however much time I have. I'll just close my eyes, just breathe in, breathe out. And I'll do that for 30 seconds. And the quality of my meeting and my mood is so different from doing that before a meeting. But even for 30 seconds, it improves the mood and helps me have a better meeting because I'm better able to give 100% to it rather than me being like 90% there or like 80%. I'm here to give 100%. So when I do that, it gives me that time to breathe, relax, and be done. Be ready for that meeting. So that's something that is really, really helpful and really good there. And then again, it's stuff like so that's been helpful, and meditation, and then also just managing the stress. So making sure that if I'm feeling stressed, I take margin, which that's something that I know a lot of people are like, what's margin? Isn't that something that traders talk about? Yes, there's that type of margin where, you're selling and buying stocks, and it's great. But margin in terms of mindfulness and mental health, that margin is where you're taking time for yourself. So there's evenings where I have to have very disciplined boundaries. So I cannot work on projects past 9 o'clock, or else I know I come 3 o'clock in the morning. Who's working on projects? This guy. But that's something I had to learn. I can't do things. I have to have boundaries and that margin. So maybe at 8 o'clock, I did some good work, and then I am ready to watch a movie. So, the other day I had a day full of meetings, and I was like, I am ready to I don't feel like responding to emails. I was just not in the right headspace to do that. So then I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I bought a pizza, and I watched K-dramas. But that was margin. That was me. I took some time for that. I took some me time, and I watched a movie, ate some pizza, this really cool pizza joint like right by my place. But that's margin. That's something where I took some time for myself, but it pays dividends, kind of like in stocks and investing. It pays dividends to invest in yourself and to give yourself time, because you can accomplish a lot of goals, a lot of projects, and you can keep being on that grind all the time. But if you keep doing that, what's to say that, what happens when you feel bad, or what happens when your mental health isn't great, right? So that's something where you have to have clear boundaries. You have to take time for yourself, and you have to learn different things like meditation. So for me, when I found meditation, it was really helpful. For a lot of people, it doesn't, for them, it's just not for them. And that's okay. So it's understanding what works for you. And that's a discovery process. So for me, it took a while to understand what I needed. So I found like meditation was great, but I do better at the gym. So I go to the gym just about every week, at least a couple of days. Every day is an arm workout day, let's be honest. Like that's what, so, but that's what I'll do at the gym. For me, that's my mindfulness. But that's not to say that meditation isn't inherently bad. Meditation is great. But it works for different people. So for me, I discovered that going to the gym, that really helps. So I started my fitness journey because of that, because I felt good about myself. I felt confident in it. So it's things like that. So do what makes you confident, and make sure that it's good for your mental health. So take some time for yourself,
No, yeah, that's real good. And I really like the part where you say you bought yourself a pizza and watch K-dramas.
Yeah.
What's your favorite K-drama? I know this is like completely off topic. But...
you know what? That's a really good question. So I just got into watching K-dramas. Believe it or not, I had up to like about 2 weeks ago, I hadn't watched any K-dramas. But this is something new. One of my friends, who's actually, I just realized that they're from Pittsburgh, which is my hometown. So I was so excited. So one of my friends was telling me about these K-dramas. I was like, okay, I need to go look these up. So I watched, I guess the only K-drama I watched so far is While You Were Sleeping, which is not that 90s show from like way back. But it's a K-drama, and it's actually really cool because it's about this person who dreams about like different events happening, and then the events actually happen. So it's really interesting. Totally recommend people checking it out. But like that's the one thing I was able to watch, and but it was fun. But again, that's something where I now kind of like K-drama, so I'm gonna be watching some more. I've got a whole entire list too.
Yes, I also like enjoying watching K-dramas too.